What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cage My IQ. As always, I'm your host, D-Bake. Joining with me once again is my co-host, Jim DiLullo. How's it doing, Jim?
It's going, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm getting excited for this pay-per-view card that we have coming up this Saturday. Of course, we're going to be doing a UFC 269, which is headlined by Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier in this lightweight championship matchup. And of course, the co-main event is Amanda Nunes defending her championship against Julianna Pena. When you saw this card, what was your first thoughts?
Well, when you look at the poster that Tapology has up still, the first thought is like, damn, this is a banger. Then you take away, the third fight, Masvidal and Edwards, and then you
Yeah,
break down the card a little further like we're going to, but like the main card is still amazing. And the prelims are a fight night, essentially. Like you're getting
yeah,
Augusto Sakai and Tai Tuivasa, Dominic Cruz, Pedro Munoz, Ryan Hall, Derek Minner, former Cage My IQ guest Derek Minner,
exactly.
former Cage My IQ guest Anders, Jillian Robertson. Like it's a crazy card, and the return of Josh Emmett, and he's going up against Dan Ige. Like this whole card from top to bottom is possibly the best card of the year.
Exactly, and of course we only have two cards left, and then we're going to have that 1 month break, which is going to be just crazy because you're going to
Yep.
have 1 month where there's no MMA whatsoever. So it'll be a nice chance. I said this the other day on the recap show. It's a chance to kind of like recharge your batteries, enjoy the holidays, come back strong with your MMA predictions and
Yeah.
whatnot. But before we get started with any of the preview that we have for you tonight, as always, this is Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. Of course, we're partnered with the Fighters First Network on YouTube. So all I ask for you guys to do is go to at Fighters First on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and then of course hit the notification bell so whenever we put content out, you guys are the first to see it. Also, please do us a favor, smash the like button and also comment on this video. Let us know what you think. Give us your thoughts and opinions of our preview and just anything you got to say to us about the whole channel. Just hit us up in the comment section. And then, of course, we do have merch out now with the FightersFirst.shop. All you got to do is go to FightersFirst.shop as it showed right there. Check out all the different fighting collections that we have. We got stuff for wrestling, we got stuff for MMA, we got stuff for even boxing. And then, of course, the one collection you should check out is the Cage My IQ collection. We got three shirts. We got a shirt with three different styles out. And of course, with the cold here now in winter, just coming up in the next week or two, we got the hoodie out. So definitely go to fightersfirst.shop and buy one of our shirts or the hoodie, and then give us a shout out on social media on Twitter or on Instagram and show us a picture of you wearing your merch, and then we'll give you a shout out on one of our shows coming up in the new year. But let's get started, of course, with the preview for the main card of UFC 269. As you see there, the poster, like you said, it's taking place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, this Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a five-fight main card, as you see right there. The first fight that we have is Sean O'Malley going up against his opponent, Raulian Paiva. We got both of them right here. First, you got Ryan Paiva, who is 21-3 and is the plus 250 underdog. And then you got Sean O'Malley, who's 14-1 and is the minus 310 favorite. What do you think of this matchup, and who do you have winning?
It's a really good matchup between two really good bantamweights. This is a closer fight than I believe most people are giving it credit for. Paiva lands almost 5 strikes per minute, but his average striking defense, which could work in Sean O'Malley's favor given his reach advantage and the fact that he lands twice the amount of punches per minute than Raulian Paiva. Paiva has the tendency to use the leg kick semi-frequently, which I think is something that in this fight he should use more often. He should go to the well a little bit more, like we saw Cheeto do to Sean a few fights ago. Paiva has looked really impressive in his last 3 fights and packs a lot of power for 135, but I think he's going to come up a little bit short on this fight, so I'm going to go with Sean O'Malley by decision and probably getting a ranking, a number after his name after this fight.
Yeah, as you see there, right here, I'll actually move it a little bit closer so everybody can see the screen right there. As you see there, first you got Sean O'Malley. Of course, he's coming off 4-1 in his last 5. He's fighting out of Scottsdale, Arizona, 27 years old, 135.5 pounds, and he's fighting. And then he has a 72-inch reach, and he's 5'11", and he's fighting out the MMA lab. Whereas Ryan Paiva is fighting out Santana Amapa, Brazil. He's 26 years old, 135.5 pounds, 5'8", with a 69.5-inch reach, and he trains out of Academia Ronito, No Braid Gym, and then Team Alpha Male. So that's one thing notably. He started training with, of course, the guys at Alpha Male not too long ago, and he's looked pretty good at doing that. But let's look at the past for both fighters. Of course, you got Sugar Sean O'Malley. Whoop, went to his gym. But first you got Sugar Sean O'Malley. It's scrolling right down here. He fought Chris Motino, in which he won a little bit like by a TKO. I thought it should have been went the distance 30 extra seconds, but they gave him the stoppage, and he looked very good with the movement, the striking. He landed a lot. Then you got Thomas Almeida. He came back again, got the stoppage round 3, so that's 2 round 3 stoppages. He lost to Cheeto Vera. Cheeto Vera showed a little bit of a weakness with his game, which is the defending the leg kicks. He had a hard time with those, and that's how he hurt his leg, in which he missed time for that. That's why you see he went from August all the way until March before his next fight. He beat Eddie Wyland by round 1 right across. He beat Jose Alberto Nunes by round 1. Then you go to he did a few grappling instances where he lost 1 and then had a draw. And then he had Andre Sukamata. He had decision, round 1 punches, round 1 real kick, round 1 punches, round 2 punches, and decision, going all the way back into 2015. So this is a guy who likes to get a lot of early finishes in his fights, and he has that explosion where, like, he's tall, kind of tall and lanky, but he can get you with the leg and then strikes. It's just that the one weakness that he has, like I said, is leg kicks and guys that move forward after him. I think Chris Motino exposed that a little bit towards the end, where if you move forward at him and just keep moving forward, he gets flustered. And that's something to keep a thought about in this fight against Ryan Paiva, because Ryan Paiva likes to move forward at all costs against his opponents. But then he got Paiva, of course, in his past. He's coming in. He beat Kyler Phillips by majority decision. It was a fight where early on he was getting beat up. You could say he got 10-80 in round 1, but then he came in, started doing what he does best, move forward. Phillips would start to tire out, and that's when he went forward, started moving forward, throwing leg kicks, and then just throwing combinations at him, and he was able to sneak out the victory there. Of course, he had a decision against Zumagulov. He had a round 2 finish against De La Rosa. Round 1 doctor stoppage, lost to Bontarin. Then he had a split decision loss to Kai Car France. Those are 2 top 10 guys there. He had a split decision victory and a round 1 submission. Then in the Amapa regionals, he has 2 wins. Then he has a win win by decision, a win. He has a TKO round 3 decision, and then a win. So he doesn't have as much of a experience in the UFC as Sean O'Malley has, but I think the competition that he's faced has been a little bit harder because you see there Kai France, Bontrin, Zuma Grumov, and then you got Phillips. Those are 3 top 15 guys in that weight class at the time that he was fighting that have gotten better, and he's fought them, and he has like pretty decent success against them. And I think the one thing going into this fight, I am going to go with the Sean O'Malley in this, but I'm going to probably go with the round 3 finish.
Okay.
But I think early on it's going to be a test, because I think with the moving forward, I think Paiva has a chance to draw this fight out with the moving forward, just getting in his face. That's his best bet. If you could get into O'Malley's face and not give him all that time in the range, he's going to get flustered and he's going to make mistakes. All you got to do is move forward and then throw leg kicks at him, and that dictates Raulian Paiva's game plan to a T. I think he's going to get going early, but I think what O'Malley's going to show later on is the fact that how is he going to adapt to it. And I think he's going to be able to adapt to it. He's going to start moving a little bit faster, kind of circle around him, get to his non-thrown spots, and then he's going to attack them with his high leg kicks. And I think he's going to catch him with a high leg kick, and then he's going to finish him off with ground and pound. So okay. I got round 3 ground and pound victory for O'Malley.
Yeah, when you look at Paiva, 2 things kind of stick out. The move to bantamweight was a needed move for him. Losing to Bontarin and Kai France at flyweight showed that he wasn't, that weight cut must have been brutal for him. Since moving up, he's looked very dominant. I think he was also a late replacement in one of those fights. I think it might have been the Phillips fight where he was the late replacement.
2 weeks.
Yeah, and he came in a little bloated in that fight, but still moved pretty well. And secondly, you mentioned this right when you were previewing it. Moving to Team Alpha Male as his primary gym, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some wrestling out of Paiva. We've never
He showed a little bit of it against Kyler Phillips in, I think, round 2, where he was able to take him down, kind of control him, and then he was throwing a little bit of strikes at him.
Yeah, we've never really seen anybody try to test Sean O'Malley's ground game. And that's one of the things that Sean O'Malley's really talked about in interviews and podcasts that he's done, that, he's known as a knockout artist. He's like the bantamweight Mark Hunt is what he's called himself at one point. And he says, I'm good on the ground too. I'm waiting for someone to test me. This might be that moment to see. But this is one of those cards, man. I'll be honest with you. It's like last week's card where I wasn't confident about any of the picks that I made. And it showed, because I think I went 1-5. Clay Guida, thank God. And this is another one where it could every fight could go either way. But I think I'm confident about one of these fights that I'm going to pick.
Yeah, I went 3-8 on the whole card. It just was a disaster. So last week, but we all have that every now and then. But I think Cheeto Vera was going to use that game plan. He just didn't have to once he checked the leg kick and hurt O'Malley with it. And then he just finished him off with the more leg kicks and then the striking. He didn't even have to go to the grappling that he likes to use now. But this is going to be a fun fight to see. I still expect O'Malley to win it. I just think it's going to take him a little longer to do it, like he has in the past couple fights. I think it's going to be like round 3 again, which would be the 3rd straight time that he's had to finish the guy round 3.
Yeah, he either knocks you out in the first round or he goes the distance. He goes a complete war. So it's either in and out or take a lot of damage. It's a crazy way to fight.
Yep. But let's move on to the second fight that we have on tilt right now. It is a flyweight matchup between Kai France going up against Cody Garbrandt, who is making his flyweight debut after moving down. But first, we got Kai France, as you see there. He is 22-9 and is the plus 150 underdog, whereas you got Cody Garbrandt, who's 12-4 and is the minus 175 favorite. What do you think about this fight? And then who do you have winning?
This is a very interesting fight, as both of these guys are trying to get that shot at Brandon Moreno, since every fight that Moreno is supposed to be on, he was also supposed to be on this card, I believe, has kind of fizzled out. Cody going down the flyweight is pretty big and notable with this fight, and I believe that he has the most to lose when it comes to this fight. I think if he loses, we may be not talking about his time in the UFC anymore, because he's dropped 4 of his last 5 and is going up against a guy who's coming off a KO win over Bontorin. Both guys pack power and can knock you out with one shot. But what I think is going to happen is France is going to go back to his kickboxing roots and chop at the leg of Cody to set up the jab. If you go back to Cody's last fight with Rob Font, we saw that the jab was really effective, and it was finding a home almost ad nauseum. And given that this is a 3-round fight instead of a 5-round fight, which the Font fight was, I think that this is going to benefit Kai France to use the jab. So again, this was a really tough one to pick. I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm riding the hotter hand, somebody who's coming right off a win, although he's been alternating wins and losses, and that kind of trend kind of scares me a little bit. But I'm going Kai France by decision. I had 2nd round KO, but Cody's got a really good chin. I don't see him getting knocked out. So I'm going to go Kai France decision.
Yep. First, we got a Kai France. He fights out of Auckland, New Zealand. 28 years old, 125.5 pounds. He's 5'4" with a 66.5-inch reach, and he trains out of City Kickboxing. And we've seen a couple of those guys the past couple of weeks, most notably Brad Riddell. Then you got Cody Garbrandt, who trains out of Sacramento, California. He's 30 years old, 135.5 pounds, 5'8" with a 65.5-inch reach, and he trains with Team Alpha Male and Strong Style Fight Team. First, you got Kai France. We're going to go look at the detail of his tape. In the past, he beat Rogerio Bontorin by round 1 punches back in March. He lost to Brandon Royval by round 2 guillotine choke. He beat Tyson Nam by decision. Lost to Moreno by decision. He beat De La Rosa by decision. Paiva by split decision. Garcia by decision. You got Zayu Shi by rear naked choke. You got whatever that name is by decision. You got Quilin Aori by decision. And then you got Zhang Wu by round 2 KO, and then Rodolfo Marquez by round 3 punches. So majority of the thing says that when he wins, he mostly wins by decision, and then when he loses, he's lost by once by decision and then once by guillotine choke. So really, there's no pattern to look at with him, other than he usually just outdoes his opponent volume wise. He's not too big of a volume guy. And like you said, it's the jab. But this is a fight that could be pretty good for him to continue his win streak, because you got Cody Garbrandt coming in. We don't know how that weight cut's going to affect him with his movement or with his power. Usually the weight cuts will affect you big time. But he's coming in. He lost the main event back in May to Rob Font by decision. He beat Suncell by that round 2 knockout that was just crazy, where he ducked down and he just threw it at him right before the horn and knocked him out. He lost to Pedro Munoz by punches, Dillashaw by punches in both fights in round 1 and 2. He beat Dominic Cruz by unanimous decision. He beat Takeya Mizukaki by round 1 punches. Almeida and Mendez by round 1 punches, Henry Briones by decision, and then Marcus Brimage and Charles Stanford by round 3 punches and round 1 TKO. So with him, it's either he's going to knock you out or he's going to get knocked out because his chin hasn't been the same at all. Like he used to have a decent chin, and then it's just been exposed the past couple of years. And it's going to be interesting style-wise to see how these guys do, because you did see in Cody's last fight, he brought in the grappling and wrestling that he hadn't done for like 8 years against Rampant, and he had decent success. But I think the one thing that was killing him was his gas tank. And then I think that might be even worse moving down, because he has to cut even more. And you would think that it might kill his gas tank a little bit more. So it might make you think that he might try and go for the knockout shot really early in this fight, so that he doesn't have to go any farther into like the second and third round. Because the more he goes into that, the more tired he's going to get. But then again, he did a 5-round fight, so he might just do whatever in the first 2 rounds here and try and get ahead. And then if he knocks him out, he knocks him out. And then in the third, he'll know he'll be tired, so he'll try and not get finished. But I think Kai Kara-France is going to try and get the jab going. He's going to move around. I think he's going to be the more conditioned fighter, because he's already in that division. He's not cutting any differently. And all he has to do is avoid that knockout shot, that overhand that Garbrandt has to do. It's still kind of like an enigma how I feel about Garbrandt being there. I got to see the weigh-ins to have like a more confident feel of how I expect Cody Garbrandt to look and how I expect him to go in this fight, because that weigh-in is going to be a big thing for me. But if I had to say right off the top of my head, I'd go with the Kai Kara-France by decision. That's been his path to victory since he's been in the UFC. And if you're the betting person, go decision. But then if you're unsure of yourself, also go with Cody Garbrandt by knockout. Like if you want to go both ways, because you know he's going to gas out at some point. So your best bet is, if you think that there's a chance he might win, the best bet is knockout, because he has that knockout power. Like we said, he either gets knocked out or he knocks you out. And other than that one knockout win for France, majority of his fights end in decision. So it's either Kai Kara-France by decision or Garbrandt by knockout. But to me, it's France by decision.
Yeah, and if Cody wants to go with the wrestle heavy approach in the UFC, Kara-France has a 83% takedown defense, so he's got a good base. He's a natural flyweight, like you said. He knows that division well. The weight cut is going to be a big thing. If he standing up there looking like T.J. Dillashaw when he cut that weight, it could be a little telling. But if he's walking around pretty comfortable and then puts back on that muscle, we know what power Cody has, and we know he's, look at that Dominic Cruz fight. His head movement's fantastic. His boxing was good. He kind of seems like he got the yips a little bit after those back-to-back losses to TJ, albeit, TJ tested positive for whatever after those wins. But I don't know, man. I think if Cody wins this, he's safe. But if he loses this, he's going to be looking for a job like Kevin Lee. You don't really drop 5 out of 6 fights and get another fight.
Do you think that there's a chance that he might pull a Daniel Cormier, and with the move down, usually with the move down, you kind of lose a little bit of your power, but then because he trains with all those wrestlers and then he has that background, you think he might try and go that route and try and grapple with these guys because they're usually smaller than him, and he might have a better success at getting the fight down to the ground, and then you use that the ground and pound?
I do see him trying to shoot for more takedowns than he would have in bantamweight. Because if you look at bantamweight, Cody's like 5'6", 5'7"?
Yeah.
Look at the last two we just went up. We were just talking about
5'8".
Okay, so look at Sean O'Malley, 5'11". You know what I mean? That's a pretty big. That's Max Holloway tall for
Mm-hmm.
at 135. So Cody may shoot for one or two more takedowns than he would at 125, just because he does have a size advantage. He's about 4 inches taller than Kai Kara-France, but the reach is it's actually pretty close. It's
Yeah.
about an inch off. So it's
Usually,
interesting.
usually the thing is you look at the height, the reach, and then the weight, and the like you said, the reach is similar, so that won't have too much of an effect. But you look at that height; it's 4 inch height, and then 10 pound difference. So to me, that means he can throw his weight around a little bit, because even though they weigh in, the weigh in similarly, but then he can put that weight
Oh,
back
for
on,
sure.
and then use that, and he'll have a advantage. So I could see a situation where we see like not like a big difference in Cody, but like him utilizing the wrestling more, and then trying to be more game plan than just going there and throw haymakers at Kai Kara France.
Yeah, I mean, look for him to get France up against the cage and look for some trips,
Yeah,
and maybe we'll see Cody just lay there for a little bit, try to gain his composure. It depends on who the ref is. Some refs let it go a little longer as they fight for position, and other refs are going to stand him up quick. But if he gets lucky, he might be able to get his second win and go back and get that win. But I'm going to ride with don't blink Kai Kara France.
yeah. Yep, but let's transition to the third fight that we have on for you. We got a welterweight matchup that pits Geoff Neal going up against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Geoff Neal comes in at 13-4 and is the -110 favorite. Well, they're both the same odds, so it's a neutral fight. Then you got Ponzinibbio comes in at 29-4 and is also -110, as I said there. A minute ago. Jim, who do you have winning, and what do you think of this fight?
Well, I think that this is a really good matchup, and I don't expect this fight to go to the judges. Both guys land about the same, but what separates the two is that Ponzinibbio uses kicks to set up combos. Neal is going to move forward, use his jab to get his opponent to the cage to get the knockout. I really don't know how much time Neal has spent training lately. He did have some recent legal problems, which could have taken his mind out of the fight, could have taken him away from his gym, but that could be a factor going into this fight. I don't think it's going to be a huge factor. I think he's going to be with it. I think Neal is going to stick to his guns to use his power, and we've seen that Ponzinibbio's chin is not as good as we thought it was after that Li Jingliang fight. So I'm going to go with Geoff Neal by a second round knockout.
That's pretty bold right there for me. But first, you got Geoff Neal. He's coming out of Dallas, Texas, 31 years old. He weighs 171 pounds. He is 5'11", 75-inch reach, and he trains out of Fortis MMA. Then you got Ponzinibbio. He's coming. He's from La Plata, Argentina. He's 35 years old, 170 and a half pounds, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, and he trains out American Top Team Gym.
Yep.
First, you got Geoff Neal. We look back at his past fights. He's coming in on a 2-fight losing streak. He lost by decision to both Magny and Thompson. He beat Mike Perry and Nico Price by punches in round 1 and by ground and pound round 2. He beat Belal Muhammad by decision. He beat Camacho by head kick round 2. Brian Kamazi by round 1 rear naked choke. And then you got round 1 finishes against Walden and Bilal Williams. He lost to Kevin Holland by round 3 TKO and XKO 34. And then all right down here, he has round 1 punches, round 2 doctor stoppage, and then you got a decision unanimous. So he's been very successful. It all depends. Most of his fights go to decision, and with the style of fighting that he does. But then you got Ponzinibbio, who has fought a lot. He's been one of those veterans, been around forever. He beat Miguel Baeza by decision. That was a crazy fight. He lost by left hook to Jiling Li, where he just got he was the heavy favorite going in, and Jiling just shocked him with that early left hook. He beat Neal Magny by round 4 punches. He beat Mike Perry by decision, beat Gunnar Nelson by round 1 punches, Nordine Tialab by decision, Zach Cummins by decision, and Court McGee by round 1 punches, Andre Stahl by round 1 punches. He lost to Lawrence Larkin by round 2 punches, and then he beat Sean Strickland by decision and Rendell Oliveira by round 1 punches. I want to highlight that Sean Strickland one because that's a guy that is on a winning streak right now. Sean Strickland's in the top 10. He just beat Uriah Hall, of course, of the names. He beat him by decision. He's a guy ranked in the top 10 right now, and that's a fight a few years ago that almost 7 years ago that Ponzinibbio won. I know they're both different fighters, but you can still see that he was able to beat a guy like that, and then he's gone up, and his only loss has been to Li Jiling, who just lost to Shemaev, and they're right there in the rankings. So, and then he got that big win against Baeza. I think in this fight, what I feel like is I got Ponzinibbio by decision. I feel like with this fight, I think he's the better striker here. I think Geoff Neal is a fighter that goes off of reactions from the other fighter, and he's more of like a counter guy. And in the past couple of fights, he's looked kind of, I'm not going to say shell-shocked, but he's been overwhelmed by the talent that he's fought against. And Ponzinibbio is a guy who's coming in with a great win in one of the best fights of the year against Baeza, where he was getting hit a lot early with the leg kicks. I think that's the one thing Ponzinibbio is weak against is the leg kicks. I don't think that's going to be a big deal with Geoff Neal. The leg kicks, but I think the combinations are going to be on Santiago's side. I think he's going to just squeak out each round with the volume. And I actually think that Ponzinibbio will knock down Neal at least once. He won't finish him. I think he'll knock him down. And that's why I got Ponzinibbio by decision.
I'll say that's a bold one too, because I don't have any counter to that. But what I will say is, since you highlighted one of Ponzinibbio's big wins against Sean Strickland, let's go a little more recently with Geoff Neal, that decision win against Bilal Muhammad. That's a big feather in his cap. And then as you look at the last 2 fights, Geoff Neal's competition is significantly higher than Ponzinibbio's, which you would think would have been the opposite based on their career path and their experience in the game. But that, it wasn't long ago when we saw Geoff Neal fighting on Dana White Contender Series, and then he's fighting Wonder Boy, and then he's fighting Neal Magny, right? And then there was Ponzinibbio, where we thought he was the next big killer in this division, and then he's fighting Mike Perry, and he's fighting Carmel Thunder, Miguel Baeza, who, great fighter, right? Took his 0 away. But that kind of was like a weird matchup, because you look at it and you're like, is Ponzinibbio entering the gatekeeper mode a little bit? Because they give him this hungry fighter, they gave him the leech, they gave, and it all could be based on COVID, because South America had stricter guidelines than other countries, so it might have been based on COVID that we saw these fights fizzle out, but the competition has increased.
Yeah. And then remember, Ponzinibbio moved down weight classes as well. And that's why he fought Strickland early on, was because he was at middleweight. And I think he's even done 1 or 2 at light heavyweight. But I think he's found the best weight class for him in welterweight here, because he's going to be a bigger guy, and he's able to cut down to that weight, and it's not affecting him as much. Like he did lose to Li Jiling, but I think he was able to I think had he not got hit there, that would have been a competitive fight there.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens sometimes. You get caught with a mistake and then you lose. But
Yeah.
he was able to come back and beat a guy in Baeza who was outside the top 15 with him, and he came back and won that fight in the last half of round 2 and then all of round 3, game plan wise. And this is a situation where you got a guy who's coming off a win and a guy who's coming off of 2 losses.
Yeah.
So that's the UFC's way of doing things in the top 15. They try and pair a guy moving down with a guy moving up.
Yeah. When the stock rises versus stock declining.
And then to see if they can get a good matchup out of it. So it's like Geoff Neal gets a loss here. That's 3 straight. He might find himself outside the top 15, and then Ponzinibbio could find his way into the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, Geoff Neal loses, we might see him on the early prelims.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. The one thing about Ponzinibbio, and then we can move on, is that the thing about that Li Jiliang fight is Ponzinibbio is carrying his head a lot higher than I expected him to. Like he was keeping that chin out there, and it looked like he completely underestimated Lee. Geoff Neal, albeit the smaller of the 2 fighters, has the longer reach, and early in his career was a knockout artist. So if Ponzinibbio walks in there with that head held high like he did against Lee, he might get clipped again. This could be an early knockout by Geoff Neal. But I think this might be the first fight that we differed on opinions. So at least one of us is going to get a win, unless this is a tie and then we're both screwed.
Exactly. I think the thing with me that's leaning towards Ponzinibbio is the fact that I think he's the better striker. He's going to get a lot of volume in this fight, and I do think that he could knock out Geoff Neal, especially with the fighting situation going on with Geoff Neal. His head might not be fully in it.
Yeah,
having to deal with that, especially a week out. And Ponzinibbio is focused on just training and getting ready for this fight. So I that might play a little bit into my predictions here as well.
Yeah.
But I just feel like with the Ryan High after that great performance, that as long as he doesn't get knocked out, I think I got Ponzinibbio all day. But there's that part of me that thinks he needs to make sure he doesn't make that mistake that he did, like you said, in the Li Jiliang fight where he got clipped.
And listen, Geoff Neal probably has some legal bills he's going to have to pay for, so he might be going for fight of the night, man. Get that 50K.
Yep. But let's transition to the co-main event of the evening. We got a women's bantamweight championship matchup between Amanda Nunes going up against Julianna Pena. Nunes is coming in 21-4 and is the -800 favorite, whereas Pena comes in 11-4 and is the +550 underdog. Jim, what do you think of this fight, and then who do you have winning?
All right, so if you look at this fight solely based on their UFC statistics, these 2 fighters are almost identical. But that's really where it ends. Pena is a good fighter. She has good grappling and boxing, but has struggled with the more experienced fighters. We saw her lose to Germaine de Randamie. We saw her lose to Valentina. And then you enter the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, who has ran through 2 divisions and has beaten both of those women, and keeps growing as a martial artist. Like, that's the thing. Like, you think she would get stagnant, but she keeps adding more wrinkles to her game and keeps getting better and keeps getting hungrier. She's defending 2 belts at the same time. Like, she's phenomenal. Pena's going to make this fight competitive. She's another one of those fighters who comes in and says she has the style to beat Amanda Nunes. Misha Tate said that. She didn't make it past Ketlin Vieira. I'm going to go with Amanda Nunes by 4th round stoppage.
Yep. First, we got Amanda Nunes. She's from Brazil. She fights out of Miami, Florida. 33 years old, 145 pounds. She's 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. And she trains out both American Top Team and MMA Masters. Then you got Pena, who fights out of Spokane, Washington. 32 years old, 136 pounds. 5'6" with a 69-inch reach, and then she trains at Ski-Jitsu Gym. But first, we'll highlight Amanda Nunes right here, of course, with our past fights. You got Megan Anderson, inverted triangle armbar round 1. You got Spencer and GDR by decision. You got Holly Holm by round 1 head kick and punches. You got Cyborg round 1 punches. You got Pennington round 5 ground and pound. You got Shevchenko by split decision. You got Rousey round 1 punches. Misha Tate round 1 rear naked choke. You got Shevchenko again by decision. Sarah McMahon by round 1 rear naked choke. Shayna Baszler by round 1 leg kick and punches. Kat Zingano ground and pound round 3 and loss. You got GDR by punches round 1. You got Shyla Gaff by round 1 elbow. You got Sarah DiLullo by decision unanimous in Victor FC. And then you got Raquel Canuto by round 1 rear naked choke. The one thing I want to highlight is the 2 losses here to Zingano and DiLullo. And then I also want to highlight as well the GDR matchup in which she did win by decision. But in those fights, the one struggle Amanda Nunes had was with grapplers who are able to take her down. In the 2 losses, she was taken down and then, of course, finished. Zingano was able to just have her way with her and then was able to get the finish round 3. And that was early on in her career. And the only loss in the UFC, of course. And then, of course, you saw that GDR fought her twice, lost by finish the first time. She was able to take her down a few times in this fight and keep her held down on the mat. And that's been a little struggle for Nunes in certain fights where if you would say there's a weakness with her, it's the takedown defense and her get-ups. She's not as strong doing that as she is standing up on the and then trading shots. That's her bread and butter is the striking. It's the grappling and whatnot, which is favoring to Pena. If there's one way for Pena to make a difference in this fight, it's the grappling and whatnot. And that's why I think she called her out and she's calling her shot, because if you look, like, she doesn't have that great of like a mark that like stands out. She did beat Sarah McMahon by round 3 rear naked choke. She lost to GDR by guillotine choke. She beat Nico Montano by decision. She lost by armbar to Valentina Shevchenko. She beat Zingano Jessica I, and then Milana Dudieva by decision round 1 ground and pound. She beat Jessica Rakotsky by round 1 punches. She beat Sarah Morris by round 2 guillotine. She beat Shayna Baszler by rear naked choke round 2, and Gina Masne by decision. So she focuses more on her grappling, where she utilizes the decision or the submission game, but then her one weakness is when she does that is she leaves herself open at times for submissions as well. And what I see her trying to get the fight to the ground at all costs against Nunes. If the fight doesn't get to the ground, I got round 1 knockout by Nunes. I think she gets her out right away. But if there's any stall and any chance that she can get the fight to the ground, I still got Amanda Nunes, but I got her by more so maybe decision. I think she'll be able to get her to the ground and do a little bit, but I'm not very confident in Pena. I don't think she'll be able to submit her. I don't think her ground and pound and striking is to the level of Nunes with anything she has. I think the level of competition has helped Amanda Nunes over the past couple of years develop a better game plan. And I think she knows that Pena is going to attack her and get her to the ground. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if you hear anything coming out of Nunes's camp of her bringing in somebody to practice defend takedowns and working on the mat, and because she's the type of person that wants to get better at anything that she's weak at. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's happened now. But I don't see a knockout really, because I feel like it's not going to be Pena's not going to want to stand up and trade with her. So
Hope
that's
not.
why I got two like scenarios. I got Nunez by decision. I think she'd put a bean on her, but she won't finish her. Or I got a good one with Nunez by submission around 4, because I feel like Pena could make a mistake, and instead of going for that, I think that this might be a little bit personal because of Pena calling her out and attacking her. I think Nunez is going to want to beat her at her own game and submit her. And so I'm going to go with round 4 submission by Nunez, by guillotine.
Okay, so we're both in the 4th round.
Yeah.
So we both agree that Julianna Pena is going to come in here and make it competitive. When I saw this matchup, I didn't expect it to be like the Megan Anderson fight, where she really looked scared when the bell rang. I don't know if there was something wrong. Maybe she hurt herself, but she looked scared when Amanda Nunes moved forward. And then that's why you get that inverted triangle in round 1. It was a crazy fight, crazy way to end the fight. But props to Julianna Pena for calling her shot and getting it. But I don't think she survives this fight. I mean, literally, she'll survive, but I don't think she wins.
And another thing to keep moving is Nunes is going to be the bigger woman, of course.
Yep.
She's going to have more weight. She's more muscle and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see how Pena tries to take her down and what methods. I think one of the best methods would be the body lock and the leg trip. That would be her best bet to do it. I don't see her doing any like take single leg or double leg takedowns. It's going to be that. So I'm thinking she's going to try and use the body lock, like I said, get her down and just try and wear her out, and then use the grappling on the ground. I just think that body is going to be too much. I think she might wind up tiring herself out doing that, because this is a 5-round fight, not 3 rounds. So I think it favors Amanda Nunes all day. I think there's going to be too many instances where Pena will make a mistake and Nunes will capitalize on it.
So I got a question for you before we go to the main event.
Yeah.
I personally don't think there's many people out there that can beat Amanda Nunes. But I do think that if they're gonna, UFC's always trying to feed her more people, right, to show that she is the best. Do you think, even though she's successful in another promotion, do you think Dana White tries to pull the trigger and bring Kayla Harrison in for that dream match? Kayla Harrison, PFL champion, versus Amanda Nunes. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her at this fight.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it's going to happen, because I think at the end of the day, I think Kayla Harrison either is going to stay back with PFL or she's going to go to Bellator, because the competition in the weight class will be pointing towards Bellator instead of UFC.
Because she goes up against Cyborg.
There's Cyborg, but then there's more fighters to go after. There's only like 5 or 6 for Kayla Harrison at her weight class. She's primarily a lightweight, and she's going to have to cut down to, I believe, featherweight to compete. And there's only like 5 featherweights in the UFC. So I think it would be better for Harrison to go to Bellator instead. I do think there's a couple of people in the UFC that can, as long as they move up, that can present some challenges for Nunes if they can make it to the top 3 or top 5 of the division. It's Cara Rusa, and then it's Casey O'Neill. Of course, Casey O'Neill has the grappling and ground and pound, but I think she'll be able to be a better grappling matchup than Pena has, because I think she has the power striking to go with the grappling. And then with Cara Rusa, she's just she goes out and she just knocks people out and then pours in a lot of volume with it. And it'll be interesting to see how she can go against Nunes.
Yeah, the last time I saw Nunez in trouble, where I'm like, she might lose this fight, is that second fight against Valentina. I personally think Valentina won that fight. A lot of people are in the comments, and listen, be nice. I read the comments. Um, might think I'm crazy, but I think she lost that fight. It was very, very close. I think she got the champion's edge.
Yeah. She definitely did. I think other than that one, it was the second Jermaine Day Randomy fight where I think the reason she won the fight was because of the volume.
Yeah,
Because even though Randomy was able to control on the ground a lot, and she kept her at bay, she just wasn't pulling in any volume to go with it. It was more so just getting the control time. So it was like Nunez was able to just throw at her and win rounds by having more of that striking than control time, because you're always going to get the striking over the control time if the person getting the control time's not doing enough with it. Yeah.
yeah.
So they went with the GDR, and if I don't recall, I think it was 3-2 was the finish, was the round finish. So
Yeah.
she was able to make it close, but Randomly was never the striking forte type of person. It was always get the fight to the ground, grapple, and submission for her. And so it's like you're gonna have to find somebody that can kind of utilize both to like really go after the goat.
That's why I thought Kayla Harrison. I'd still like to see that fight, but I mean, if you can sit in PFL and make $1 million a year and barely break a sweat, you'd be a fool to move into the UFC, and unless they're backing up the Brinks truck for like they did Chandler. But we'll see.
I think I think the problem is you're not gonna sign her and have them fight right away. You're gonna want her to fight one or two fights to build up the Nunez fight,
Yeah.
and there's not enough fighters in the division for her to do that.
Give her Holly Holm and GDR, and you're good to go.
Yeah, the problem is they've been so inactive, and then GDR, her fight got canceled, and then she won't be fighting for a couple months. So that's the problem with this, and why they're having these issues. That's why I said a little bit ago that they should have the next uh, Ultimate Fighter should be for that division.
Yeah, I
To
mean
restock.
either restock it or close it.
Yep.
Let if these women are moving up to 145, just move them down.
And everybody in the watching this video, hit us up in the comment section. Let us know what you think about what the future, any future opponents for Amanda Nunes could be, and then what you think about the possibility of Kayla Harrison coming to UFC instead of Bellator or staying in PFL. But other than that, let me transition over to the main event of the evening. Of course, we got the men's lightweight championship matchup that pins the champion Charles Oliveira going up against Dustin Diamond Poirier. Oliveira comes in at 31-8 and is the plus 135 underdog, whereas Dustin Poirier comes in at 28-6 and is the minus 160 favorite. Jim, what do you like with this matchup, and then who do you have winning?
Well, last week, if you remember and you watched our episode last week, I kind of prefaced and kind of spoiled my pick. It hasn't changed. I love this matchup, and I'm glad we're finally seeing it. Stylistically, you have one of the best BJJ practitioners in the UFC going up against one of the best boxers in the UFC. It would benefit Oliveira to take this fight to the ground and hunt for the submission, but Poirier has a decent ground game and isn't good at, or is good, I'm sorry, at keeping his opponents from securing the takedowns. Plus, he's only been submitted twice, which I know you're going to go over. One of which was to Khabib, which obviously everybody gets submitted to Khabib, and the other one was 9 years ago against Korean Zombie. I expect this fight to stay standing for the majority of the fight, and I'm going with Dustin Poirier by decision, setting up the trilogy with Conor because the UFC wants it. I don't think Conor deserves it. I think Conor should fight Chandler, but if Dustin wins this, it writes its own destiny. You have Conor for the title, and they draw in $1 billion, and the world's happy.
Yep. First, you got Oliveira. He's coming in and fighting out of Houston, Texas. Of course, his nationality is Brazil. He's 32 years old, 155 pounds, 5'10 with a 74-inch reach. He trains out of Gold Team, Texas, and Shoot Box Diego Lima, a gym. Then you got Dustin Poirier. He fights out of Coconut Creek, Florida. He's from, of course, Louisiana. He's 32 years old, 156 pounds. He's 5'9 with a 73-inch reach. And he trains at Boca Boxing District Gym and then an American Top Team gym. We'll go with the Bronx first. We're looking back at his past fights. Of course, he beat Michael Chandler by round 2, left hook to ground and pound. He beat Tony Ferguson by decision. He beat Kevin Lee by guillotine choke round 3. He grappled and beat Lucas Barros by decision. He beat Jared Gordon by round 1 overhand right and uppercut. He beat Nick Lance by right cross to ground and pound round 2. David Tamor by anaconda choke. Jim Miller by rear naked choke. Christos Giagos by rear naked choke. Clay Guida by guillotine choke. Paul Felder by ground and pound. Will Brooks by rear naked choke. You got Lamas and Pettis. He lost by guillotine choke. Miles Drury, he won by guillotine. See all these chokes in all his fights. Max Holloway by neck shoulder injury, round 1. Nick Lance, again, he won by guillotine. Stevens by decision. Hatsu Hiaki by modified Peruvian choke. Andy Ogie by triangle choke. And then early on, you got Edgar and Swanson by decision and by round 1 punches. And then Jonathan Brookins by Dosh choke. And then Eric Risley by calf slicer round 1. So his game plan, of course, is he has a couple of knockouts. He's prone to submissions in his fights against guys that know how to do it. But majority of the time, you're either losing to him by decision or by choke, and whether it's guillotine or rear naked choke. Of course, he holds the record in UFC by most wins by submission, and he has that Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. It's just one of the best. You think of Damian Maia, he would be not far behind Damian Maia with what he's done. But then, of course, we switch on over to Dustin Poirier and look at his background. Of course, he beat Conor McGregor by doctor stoppage and by round 2 punches. Dan Hooker and just a brawl of a fight by decision where they both were bloodied up. He lost by rear naked choke to Khabib. He beat Max Holloway by decision where he just beat up Max Holloway. He beat Eddie Alvarez by punches, Gagey by punches, Anthony Pettis by rib injury from body triangle round 3. No contest against Alvarez. Jim Miller he beat by decision. He lost to Michael Johnson by punches. He beat Bobby Green by punches. That's a thing to highlight because Bobby Green's a guy that he's hard to knock out and he takes a lot of damage, but he was able to do it round 1 to Bobby Green. Joe Duffy by decision, Yancy Medeiros by punches, Diego Ferrer by punches. He lost to Conor McGregor early on by punches, and Akir Corsani by round 2 punches, Diego Brander by round 1 punches, and then Eric Koch by decision. So he's all over the board on his in his past fights, but usually he knocks you out early on or he wins by decision. And then you did highlight that he was choked out by Khabib. But with that's those Sambo guys. I think there's a chance that he could be prone to this in this fight. But with how I feel like how Dustin Poirier has grown as a fighter, he has been working a lot better to counteract these guys. And I think one thing to note is Oliveira, to me, is weak against power guys. And I think a couple of the guys that he's fought moving up, minus Michael Chandler, they've been guys who are on the downhill. Other than Chandler, I think the one thing Chandler did was he got knocked out, but I think Chandler, his gas tank has been an issue in fights going in there. I think he put a lot of bank into that first round. He thought he knocked him out, and then he kept on trying to finish and kind of tired himself out and left too much holes for Oliveira to capitalize on. I don't think he's going to have that same luck with Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, I think one of the things he's done is add the leg kicks into his game plan with his boxing and his striking. I think what's going to happen is, for me, I got Dustin Poirier by round 3 knockout. I think that's one thing is he's going to be game planning. He's going to look a lot into that Khabib fight and what he did wrong and how he can compete against it. I think you think of like he got submitted, but there's a difference between getting submitted by a BJJ guy and getting submitted by a guy who's primarily a sambo wrestler, because they just roll around on the mat, whereas BJJ guys look for holes and whatnot. And I think like he's not going to have to worry about Oliveira trying to take him down and wrestle with him. It's going to be more so just picking at situations where he tries to go for a guillotine or a rear naked choke and get on top of him. And I feel like what Poirier is going to do is do a lot of movement, move around, throw leg kicks, attack him on the sides, and then whenever he moves, he's going to throw it. I think you might see a lot of body shots by Poirier this fight. Because he's going to do anything he can to slow down Oliveira and then keep him at a distance from grabbing him. And I think if the fight goes to the ground, it's going to favor Oliveira. But if this fight stands on the feet any longer than a round or two, I'm going to favor Poirier. But I think he's going to get that one shot that just hits Oliveira. And Oliveira has been known for his chin in the past. And I think he's going to connect on one of those shots, and he's going to become the new lightweight champion.
I agree. Totally agree. Although our outcomes are our methods of victory are a little bit different. But it's going to be a great fight. This is my fight of the night on this card. I actually think that Dustin Poirier always puts on a show. He's one of my favorite fighters out there. And I honestly, if he fights Conor again, he wins that trilogy 3-0. Or 4 fights. I mean, he wins 3-1.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to win, and then because he's going to have the title, they're not going to be able to do that because Conor's coming in with 2 straight losses, and right now he's ranked at number 9. I think the thing to look at is the winner, of course, of the Islam Makhachev and Benir Dariush fight. I think what's going to wind up happening is the winner of this will fight the winner of that. And my thought process is it's going to be Poirier against Makhachev. And it's going to be bad, like a bad nightmare again for him, because it's going to be Khabib's understudy.
Yeah. But what happens to Gaethje?
I think that's
a good dude. Just put on fight of the year.
He did put fight of the year, but it depends on when he can come back, because you know how they are with the medical suspensions. If he can come back sooner, I think it would be a Gaethje. But then again, like, will they do that right away? I think they would, because Gaethje did get knocked out by him, and present a good storyline for Gaethje. Yeah. Getting that chance again, but this time for the title. It just depends on when he can get back from especially with all the damage he took in that fight.
I would say March. I say March would be the next defense for this title, regardless of the winner. And I think the winner should get Gaethje. I don't care where Conor's ranked. He could be unranked. If he comes in and says, Dana, I want the title fight, I think Dana's going to say yes, because of how much money that's going to garner. Is it the right move? Absolutely not. If this goes a little longer, I'd like to see the winner of Makhachev and Dariush fight Gaethje, but I think Gaethje is clear-cut number 1 contender, should get the next title shot.
I think the next defense will wind up being in May. I think if
Wow.
you go by recent history, they're going to look to have this defended in more so May around like Memorial Day weekend,
A
something like
long
that.
layoff.
It is. It's a 5-month layoff, but then again, you got to see who they're going to fight. If Gaethje has to wait, then it would be perfect for him. But if he's able to go right away, then I could see March. It all depends on what happens in this fight and how injured both guys get. Or if the winner is healthy, has no scratches, then yeah, March he could go easily because he has nothing to worry about. He doesn't have to serve any suspension. But I think this is going to be a really good fight. But I will say that the one, of course, I'm going with the round 3 punches by Poirier. Don't be surprised, like if you are on Charles Oliveira, if it's a round 2 guillotine by him because of just mistakes that Poirier can make, trying to get in too close to knock him out, and he could just slide right in and get that choke in. I'm just going off the fact that I think Poirier won't make those mistakes, and he's going to wind up just leveling Oliveira with that knockout shot.
We'll see.
But of course, that'll wrap things up with our UFC 269 preview show here on Cage by IQ. Of course, the best place for MMA content for this Saturday's pay-per-view. It's going to take place, of course, at 10 p.m. Eastern Time at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, as I said before. Before we get going, I just want to give a shout-out to our sponsor here at High Tide Herbal. Check out this video, as you should know why.
Offering high-quality, sustainable products with all-natural, lab-tested ingredients, it's High Tide Herbal's mission to help others live the longest, healthiest, and most productive lives possible. Their hemp-derived CBD products have a wide variety of uses, from helping sore muscles to skin hydration and minimizing skin irritation. They generate results based on your specific needs. Elevate your lifestyle with the new wave of wellness. Visit hightideherbal.com to learn more.
Once again, that's High Tide Herbal. All you got to do is go to www.hightideherbal.com and put in the promo code as you see there, CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. But we will get going with that. Of course, we're going to be back for next week's preview of UFC Fight Night 45, which is headlined by Chris Daukaus versus Derek Lewis in a battle of heavyweights for you. That'll be the last main event of the new year. As we said before, there's going to be a month layoff. So definitely check us out next week at the same time as always. We'll be releasing this and releasing that, of course, next Wednesday. But check this out. Get your bets and get your info ready for this Saturday. This is Cage by IQ. Subscribe to us on the Fighters First Network on YouTube. And of course, as always, smash the like button, hit the notification bell, and hit the comment section with your thoughts and opinions of this video. And as always, we will talk to you guys next week. See you guys later.